was a keeper of the sheep and that Cain was a tiller of the field. No doubt in my mind, both of these boys were hard workers. Both of them were men of the world, making their way through the world. Both of them, you might say, were businessmen or entrepreneurs in one way or the other. And yet, Abel, somehow or another, there's such a desire and such a love for God. And I don't know how God communicated with these men. I don't know if evidently He communicated to them on a one-on-one basis, because not only did He go to Adam and Eve on a one-on-one basis, but He went to Cain after Cain had killed Abel, and He talked to him basically on a one-on-one basis in the Bible. But imagine, here was two boys that Adam and Eve loved so much. And yet, Cain is a different personality. He's a different person. Abel's a different personality. Maybe Abel realized early on that he just loved God so much. That he loved the Lord so much that whenever he had these firstlings of his flock, the lambs, he said, I'm going to sacrifice to Jehovah. I'm going to sacrifice the firstlings of my flock, and I'm going to give an offering of the fat thereof. You know, it was not something that he could consume himself. He just went and I'm sure he built an altar and he offered up a sacrifice, and it literally, even before, it was before the law. That was before the law was given. That was a heartfelt thing that Abel did. He went out there and he sacrificed unto the Lord. And I just know that it was a sweet-smelling savor unto the Lord. You know why? Not because it smelled like barbecued lamb, although that's good. But it was a sweet-smelling sacrifice unto the Lord because, well, God, knowing all things, being omnipresent, omniscient, knowing all things, all-powerful, God knew Abel's heart. See, God knows mine and your heart. Yeah. He knows you and I. You and I may think we're hiding something from the Lord, but listen, God knows you. Yes, He does. You might hide it from your preacher. You might hide it from your parents. You might hide it from your friends. You might hide it from... Listen, God knows your heart. You might hide it from yourself and lie to yourself. But man, God knows you. He knows you. Knows you better than He knows you. He knows what you're going to think about something before you even got time to conjure it up on your own. And somehow or another, I just think that somehow or another He knew that Abel was looking forward to the sacrifice, that one day God would send His Son to redeem mankind out of their trouble. Listen, them boys wasn't dumb. They knew what their mom and daddy had done. They knew the effects. I'm sure they had heard the story. Can't you hear them boys going up to their mom and daddy saying, hey, tell me what it was like. Tell me what it was like to live there. Can you imagine the stories that they told? Oh, it was a perfect place. It was a perfect place. Listen, it's where the lamb and the lion came and laid down beside one another. There was no hatred, there was no death, there was no strain, there was nothing wicked. See, it was a place of perfect peace. Listen, it was where the tiger ate grass. Come on. He wasn't eating meat. He was eating grass. Just a place of perfect paradise. You know, God's going to restore that one of these days. We're not even going to know how to act. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not a vegetable eater. God's going to have to do something. He's going to have to make me some fake meat or something. It's called tofu. Oh, hush. You're right. Might as well be eating the lid off a styrofoam minter butter. Eating that stuff. But God knew the heart. And I know that faith somehow or another welled up in Abel's heart as he heard those stories that his mom and daddy must have told. Listen, you have the biggest effect on your kids of anybody there is. I've said it over and over. You are the leader. You really are. I get it preached to me all the time. Whenever I get upset about something, I say, "Now, Daddy, be the leader. You preached it. Be the leader." "Oh, shut up. I don't want to be the leader. I want to be mad." But somehow or another, Abel looked through all that and he said, yes, he said, "Oh, how I longed for that place that my mom and daddy was. I longed for that day that I could be where they were." And so he comes and he presents this blood sacrifice. And the Bible says that the Lord accepted that sacrifice. He looked at that in faith and said, "I accept what you've done there, Abel." Well, then comes Cain along. Cain, he's a tiller of the ground. I believe Cain's a hard worker. I believe he's a gardener. He's a farmer. He comes along and he uses his hands, he uses his knowledge, he uses his wit, he uses his personality. He does everything in the world to make sure that he does everything right to get this crop to grow. And so maybe he's proud of that crop. How many of you ever grew anything, that first tomato that comes on the vine, and you're just tickled to death? Look at that. I did that. So you're tickled over it. I can imagine that Cain, when he got that crop going, he thought to himself, "Man, look at this. Looky. And so he made a basket. He made a basket of vegetables, a basket of fruit. And he took this and he offered it unto the Lord as a sacrifice. And what does the Bible say? The Bible says that God rejected that sacrifice. He rejected the sacrifice that Cain made. He accepted the one that Abel made, but he rejected the one that Cain made. Listen, the one that Abel made was a blood sacrifice. It was a sacrifice that would typify the coming of Jesus Christ. It was a sacrifice that would typify and prophesy of the cross of Calvary. But Cain comes along and offers up this sacrifice that's his own doings. It's his own making. It's something of his own beauty. It's something of his own doings. And so he brings this sacrifice of fruit and vegetables and whatever, and God rejects it. Because that's Cain's sacrifice. How many of us is all the time trying to fix our own problems? Right. Instead of coming to the foot of the old rugged cross like Abel did in faith and saying, "Lord, I give it to you." And we try to fix it. We try to get in there with our emotional wrenches and our spiritual wrenches, and we try to make things happen. We try to make it work. And God's saying, "Listen, don't come to me with all that stuff. Don't come to me with your will and your ability and your self-worth and your trying to boost yourself. Don't come to me with any of that. I cannot use it. But what I can use is a humble, contrite, repentant heart. That's what God's looking for. Some of the greatest times I've ever had with the Lord, and I had one yesterday. My God, I squalled my eyes out sitting up here in the parking lot in Jasper, Georgia. God just got near to me. He's always with me, but I really felt Him that day. You know, it's just, the Bible says if there be any good things, think on these things. Look for things of virtue. Things that are good. I had got on the phone. I've been planning on calling these people for 6 months. We got friends all over the place where we play music. I got on the phone with these people in Louisiana. Every once in a while I get my Cajun britches on. I just want to play that squeeze box and eat some rice and gumbo and crawfish and all that. And I called these people out in Opelousas, Louisiana. She's 80 years old and he's 78. First time we went down there, he was riding on a big horse and he was pushing cattle from one 200-acre pasture over to another. And the first thing he done, he asked these girls, he said, "Girls, can y'all ride a motor scooter?" And they didn't know how to ride a motor scooter, but they said they did. And so he pulls around 2 Honda 3-wheelers and puts them on it and says, "Come on, we're going to herd this cattle across this field." So they're out there, and herding cattle on three-wheelers. They don't have no idea how to operate. But what